Hello there, fearfully and wonderfully made human. Today on the Holistic Counselor podcast, I have Cassandra Thompson, a compassionate and dedicated therapist with a wealth of expertise in guiding individuals and couples through life's challenges. Armed with a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling, she brings a potent blend of academic knowledge and practical experience to her practice. With a specialization in reducing conflict, enhancing communication, and rebuilding trust, Cassandra is a certified level 1 Gottman method therapist, correct?
It's not certified. It's just level 1 Gottman.
Okay.
The Gottman Institute has some rules on that.
Oh, okay. No worries. But you studied that, and that's really, I never did, so I have no clue what that is. So, all right. Her training extends to Gottman's PTSD and affair recovery.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. Making her a trusted ally for those navigating the painful aftermath of infidelity. Cassandra's passion lies in fostering healthy relationships. Whether it's marital or premarital issues, family conflicts, or the unique stresses of motherhood, she provides a supportive and nurturing environment for her clients to explore and grow. Her approach is grounded in research-based tools, ensuring tangible changes and lasting results. Having transitioned from the Broward County school system as a therapist to the Coral Springs Counseling Center, Cassandra now focuses on couples counseling with a profound and very important emphasis on infidelity. I'm still overwhelmed on that because I'm like, wow, I've never met any therapist at all that focuses on that. And we met through a chance encounter at the St. Ambrose Carnival in Deerfield Beach years ago when I recognized her husband, Eric, who I have not seen in decades.
Yes.
Because the last time I saw him, he was probably 6 years old.
Babies.
He was a baby because I was his sister's preschool teacher. And so Tara. And so all of a sudden I'm just like, Eric, because I never forget a kid's face, especially if I was their teacher. Right. Mm. And Eric used to be coming in to pick up his little sister. Because I always got that confused too. Because that was 30 years ago. All right. I just vintaged myself. Anyways, Cassandra's presence in her community extends beyond her professional role. As a neighbor, she brings warmth and empathy to her interactions, embodying the values of understanding and connection. It's with great pleasure that we welcome Cassandra, an invaluable resource and beacon of hope for those seeking guidance and healing. So, girl, this is going to be the first question. Why did you become a therapist who specialized in infidelity?
So it kind of just came about. Let's say that I trickled into a couple different things before I kind of landed back in therapy. My undergrad's actually in communications.
Oh. And
then after some time, self-reflection, I was like, I really love this idea of being a therapist. So I went back to school for a master's degree, and I just feel like that was my calling. It was set up that way. This is my calling. And then I found myself into seeing couples therapy.
Okay.
And then we saw the need for, infidelity, for
That's
affairs.
a hard one.
And it's really a unique system to navigate because you can't just treat it like regular couples therapy. It's really sensitive. You want to make sure no one's feeling blamed. It's really hard to stay unbiased in that situation. So, taking some training, learning about it, really making that effort to make sure I'm that educated person to be able to provide that best treatment plan for that. It really was just, it was a need, and I really enjoy it.
Really?
I've seen couples heal from it and, make their way and, keep the families and stuff. So when you see success, it's a really cool feeling too.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, you're right. That's something that's needed. People are like, why don't you do, I've been married, for a while. And they're like, why don't you? I'm like, no. I still need couples therapy, even though I'm with this dude for 30 years.
We all do.
All right. Yeah. But all right. So tell me, well, let's go back a little.
Okay.
Because before you went into couples therapy, you were working at Deerfield High and what was the other school you said?
Stoneman Douglas.
Okay. And that's a whole different breed because me too. I mean, I was working out at an alternative school. For Broward County. So as a therapist, and that right there, it's has nothing to do with infidelity or what I do now either. So it's just why How was that for you? Let's just talk a little.
It was good. The students are amazing. I was more on this crisis team. So,
Wow. Oh my gosh.
I dealt a lot with Stoneman Douglas and Deerfield High had a lot of crisis situations going on.
Yeah.
So it was consistent crisis, navigating short-term therapy. And it was fine. It was great. I learned a lot.
Yes.
And then I found this opportunity to join Coral Springs Counseling Center. And again, it just kind of felt my gut like this was right.
Good.
And I did have a lot of experience with family, with children's, a lot of family counseling, and couples therapy is a lot of family counseling in a sense,
Right.
more than one person navigating the conversation, and it just fit. And I took the leap of faith to join private practice, and I will never turn back.
Yeah, I hear you. I kind of feel, because, when you're there for so long and then you see the need too, right? But I'm just like, I don't take teens at all anymore.
Yeah.
And that was my specialty. Adolescence.
That is right. I remember you telling me that.
That was all I ever did. I'm like, I'm not getting adults. If you're over 18, forget it, But now it's like, I've been in it, when you're in it for a while and it's time to change and you see things grow and just, all right. So, and you're a qualified supervisor as well.
I am. Yeah, I am. I have one intern right now.
Oh, nice.
Love her, but
good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So am I. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. So can you define what constitutes infidelity and how do you approach a fair recovery from a holistic perspective? You know what I mean? Because infidelity, what I hear from others or just people that I know that have experienced it, it's like, think about Bill Clinton. I did not have relations with that. I'm like, okay, some people would say that was infidelity. Others don't. How do you define it?
So I see infidelity as emotional or sexual, any kind of intimacy outside the agreed upon terms of your relationship.
Okay.
And every relationship kind of defines it differently. So when, some people come in for, a fair recovery kind of counseling, I ask them, can I use the word affair? Or what word is comfortable? Can we say cheating? Is it just I'm stepping out of the relationship? Are you both on the same page with this? Does one person think you cheated and the other person thinks that doesn't count as cheating? So each couple, it kind of gets defined in the session.
Oh, wow.
What does this look like? Who defines it as cheating? Who doesn't? Is this a word that we're triggered by? Are we okay with this? And go from there.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. The agreed upon. You're right, because every couple, because there's open couples out there, they're swinging. Do you deal with them all?
I think one couple that had some swinging came in, and they were still kind of figuring out what they thought was cheating or not. So I don't have that deep of practice with couples that swing, but you
or polyamorous, because I know couples that, or they're not, they're thruples.
Yeah, right. I think it's just defined on if, what do you have the issue with?
Okay.
Do you see it as this was outside our agreed upon boundaries kind of thing?
Makes sense.
And then it kind of breaks down to trust. Is this breaking trust, and how do we kind of rebuild the trust in that sense? Even if it's not just one, man and woman or anything like that, or thruples, it's the trust. That's what we're looking at.
Okay, that makes so much sense. The trust and the respect, right?
Yes.
So, all right, and so how they define it. So, how does faith intersect with a fair recovery, and what role does spirituality play in healing for betrayal?
So I do see a lot of faith-based individuals with affairs, because a lot of the times the spirituality, religion kind of pushes that person to not run to the attorney office. Like that's what society tells you. You cheat, you leave.
Right.
And you could say that as much as you want before it actually happens to you. And then when it actually happens to you, you take a minute and you say, I have a family. We have kids, we have a life together. It's all of those other layers that make it a little bit more complicated.
Right.
And then when the faith intersects, because you kind of look at your values and you say, am I supposed to leave? Is this aligning with my values? What is my faith telling me to do? And sometimes that says leave. Sometimes that says let me work on it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole level with forgiveness too. Does your faith say you're supposed to forgive? Is there a boundary with that? What does this forgiveness look like? How far do I need to push myself to say, okay, I'm trying to forgive, but I can or I can't.
Right.
And then there's this aspect of, can I forgive myself? You know, that all kind of aligns with our values and faith and what am I supposed to do? When you cheat or when someone gets cheated on, it becomes a lot of an identity crisis.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, like, what did I just do? Who am I? Am I not the person I thought I was because I did step out of my relationship? And then if you got cheated on, my whole world just crumbled in front of me. And I can't trust my own eyes. I can't trust this person when I had no idea, you know, things like that. So when you have identity crisis, we tend to fall back on our values.
Okay.
And faith is part of values.
Yes.
You know, it's what do I value? What do I see as important? What do I see as right versus wrong?
Okay.
So it actually intersects a lot with affair recovery.
I bet. I mean, I could see in different, whatever religion or dogma too, you know, I mean, it's like, how do you, as the therapist, say a couple comes in, I mean, it must take a few sessions to really bring out the actual truth. Do you see where I'm getting at?
Yeah. So that's kind of part of the process is that first session.
Yeah.
I try to lay down the law in regards to we need to commit to transparency. That's the number one thing. You know, if whatever needs to be told to one another needs to be told to one another.
Wow.
We're not going to go 10 sessions in and then we find out more is happening, more has happened.
Yeah.
We need to kind of really open up and be honest, surrender to this process, trust that if we am honest, this person will be willing to look at, maybe not even say, I'm sure I want to keep working on this relationship. I get that a lot too. You know, someone comes in, they're like, I don't know what I want to do. And I'm like, that's okay. This is part of the process. Let's find clarity on how we want to proceed. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, when you say, is there, because I don't know much about Gottman. So tell me a little bit about that. Do you have resources or assessments that you ask? Because how do you get it to stay focused and in boundaries? You know?
Yeah. So the Gottman, what I've learned from, you know, the research for the Gottman Institute is there's kind of a path to follow.
Okay.
You know, the first step is that commitment to honesty and transparency. Let's be real. Everything's out on the table. Usually the person that steps out feels a huge sense of relief once everything is truly out on the table.
Okay.
And there's no more defensiveness in a sense. I mean, defensiveness definitely comes back in and out, but you don't feel like I'm protecting myself, I'm hiding something. And that kind of becomes, in a sense, like a shield. Like, I have nothing to hide. So everything's out on the table. I'm being honest. I don't feel guilt. You maybe feel guilt, but I don't feel like I'm hiding anything. And that's the first kind of steps, commitment to honesty. And then, there's a whole process, but like a quick snippet of it is the next step is like remorse.
Okay.
You really need to feel that the person that stepped out shows true remorse and feels like I messed up. It can't be that back and forth because the person that got cheated on will feel that. And then after that, then it's kind of high anxiety stage, trying to heal. And then the last stage is where we kind of say, now what happened in the relationship? What was going on? And we don't do that stage till the end because we don't want the person that got cheated on, got stepped out on to feel like I was at blame. I made that person cheat.
Oh, yeah. And that's something that I've heard numerous times. Because I will work with individuals, like say, I won't do the couple. I'm like, you two go to couples therapy, and I will work with whoever is the one that wants to work individually with me to figure that stuff out. But that right there, what you said is like some of them, or the spouse actually says, well, if you did, you know what I mean? If you would have done A, B, and C, then I wouldn't have to go out of the marriage.
Yes.
And that right there, it's like, how do you keep it like,
that's a no-no. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's probably why I can't do couples therapy, because I'll be snatching heads. I'm sorry. I'm a bad therapist.
No. See, but that genuineness is what people need, like, and that's my style too. I just try to be genuine. I'll jump in and I'll just say, no, like you made that choice to step out. And
it's accountability.
Yeah. Okay. And that's where that remorse comes in. The lack of defensiveness, that's a Gottman tool, is the antidote for defensiveness is taking accountability.
Okay.
And that's like that first step is, let me feel the remorse. Let me take accountability. We're not blaming anybody else.
Right.
We're saying, I made this choice. I don't feel bad because I hurt you. I feel bad because I messed up.
Wow.
And I hurt you. In regards to that. So, and that's why I also tell that person that stepped out, like, your time will be heard. Like, I get that there was things probably going on in the relationship.
Right.
And I want that person to also feel seen. We're going to get to that part. That's down the line.
Okay.
So I don't want you to feel like you're not ever going to feel heard. Like, okay, well, this was going on in the relationship. We never talked. We never did this. And I felt attention from this other person. Okay, I hear you. We're going to get to that. But I want to make sure that this person you cheated on doesn't feel blamed first. Let's cross that, T, dot that I first.
Right. So honestly, how many sessions do you, and I don't want to put a number on, because sometimes couples are there for years after something, especially if here I go with, I actually know couples like this, but it's like, the dude got some other chick pregnant. It's like, but the original couple still wants to work things out. And now there's another baby, it's like, I know this because I know people, not because that was any of my clients, because I would not be able to. Yeah. That's just not my expertise, right?
Yeah.
So Gottman's PTSD and affair recovery, what is that?
So that's kind of the process. Like I was saying, that there's like certain steps. Like, let's take these steps first. The remorse, then looking at what happened in the relationship a little bit after, then you kind of recreate the emotional connection. And the reason they intertwined it with the PTSD aspect is because research also shows that the person that either got stepped out on, sometimes even the person that cheats, you still have very similar symptoms as PTSD.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, you're hypervigilant, high anxiety, you're coming up with these, in your mind, they're flashbacks, but they're just traumatic images because you're thinking the worst, and you have a lot of the same symptoms as PTSD. And it's traumatic.
Yeah.
You self-identity, all of that aligns with the PTSD.
Wow. But that makes a lot of sense. So here we go. What's your insight on love addiction?
So when I hear love addiction, and everyone's got different opinions on this, but I hear codependency.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. It's what's making us addicted to love. Is it, I feel codependent on that person. I feel insecure.
Right.
I feel like I'm addicted to love because I don't know how to feel confident within myself. I'm all about love.
Right.
I understand that you can love. But when you feel like you're addicted, maybe that's more on the codependent side.
Okay.
Am I leaning on my partner for everything, for anything? I get that you have to have a healthy lean in a relationship.
Yes.
But do you feel confident and secure without them there? So that's kind of what I think when I hear love addiction.
Right. Because there's love addiction and sex addiction, right?
Oh, that's another one.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going to ask too about that, because I studied love addiction for a while. I actually have a short film, hopefully coming out in the next couple of years, that I did a long time ago on love addiction.
Okay.
And that's it. It's like nobody knew what that was.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's like codependency, but it's also what I saw was like the person in love with love, but they got bored after a while and then they went to the next, and it wasn't sex. They didn't want the sex. It was like that emotional connection and that love. It's weird. I mean, I've studied it, and there's like a 40 questionnaire. I'll put it in the show notes if anybody's interested in seeing if they're a love addict or not. But but the sex addiction, okay? Because that is something, let me tell you, I know working with the teens that I did, like that addiction starts at a very young age nowadays because of our internet.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you got to think about it, these boys had a magazine that they would pass around. All right.
Nasty.
You know, but we both of us just looked at the boy in the room. But it's like, and then it just got more, you know, and then you got the videotapes and all that. But now, like when I have a 19-year-old who has erectile dysfunction in my office, that's sex addiction starting at 12 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. So now here it comes, big blindsiding the family. And it's not just men, it's women becoming addicted too. Tell me a little bit about your experience with sex addiction as a therapist.
So I'm going to, I guess, talk about it in regards to like the infidelity lens.
Okay.
So a lot of couples come in, and when I say a lot of couples come in saying, he must be addicted to sex, or she must be addicted, or it was, I think the easy fallback is he cheated or she cheated because we're not having enough sex. And I'm not going to invalidate that. You know, there could be definite reasons, you know, or people say, oh, we have different sex drives or, you know, and I'm not a sex therapist, so I can't dismiss that. There's probably different things they could try in the bedroom kind of thing. But what I look at, it's not, I guess with infidelity, I have not typically seen sex be the reason why.
Wow.
And that's what everyone thinks, right? Exactly your face.
It's finances and sex. I thought those were the top two.
No, and that's what everyone thinks. Everyone's like, oh, it must be about sex.
Okay.
I don't know if I've even ever had it about sex. Like it's never actually been about sex to come across my sessions.
All right.
It's usually more about when someone says, oh, we're not having sex, or we're not having enough sex, I try to figure out what's going on in the relationship. You know, we have to be turned on emotionally before we can get turned on downstairs.
Right.
You know, if there's nothing going on, if we're not connected.
Are you sure boys have that? No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, boy. Oh, I'm so bad. Okay, I'm sorry.
Boys like to cuddle too. I just saw a reel about that, how the research shows boys like to cuddle too. And again, I'm not overgeneralizing. No. I get that some people, you know, there are different, you know, not everyone's in the same box. But it's not usually about sex.
Okay.
It's about feeling unseen, disconnected. Your ego hasn't been stroked in a while. You don't turn to one another anymore. And that affects intimacy.
Yeah.
You know, so when we say, you know, are they addicted to sex? Is that why they cheated? They needed more. You know, there's definitely some validity in that. Like, you know, as you were mentioning with the magazines versus porn, you know, if you were watching porn, research has showed that the more you watch it, you may become, what's that word? Like less
this is
desensitized, you know,
right, or you need more and more of, and it's like any addiction though, honestly. So like you start off with, you know, smoking 2 puffs of a marijuana joint, and then, you know, years later you're sitting there morning, noon, and night. And it's the same with porn because it's hitting the receptors in the brain and stuff like that. But it's or
the normal bedroom stuff doesn't seem like exciting like the porn does. You
know?
So,
And that I can't see. This is why I cannot do couples therapy, because that is heartbreaking to me because, you know, I know quite a few women would compare themselves. Like, I will never be like those women in the screen.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. And then insecurity now gets filtered into your relationship.
Right.
And that's what I tend to see a lot. Is people that step out of the relationship are feeling insecure about their relationship.
Okay.
So there's something in the relationship going on, which usually creates an emotional connection, which leads to a lack of intimacy. And then, people may even still be being intimate when someone steps out. You know, there's not, one page or the other.
Right.
So that's what I see a lot, is that emotional disconnection will lead to more of the infidelity, and we'll blame it on a sex addiction.
Oh,
that's what I see more.
Okay. I mean, and it depends on your, like, who comes in to you as well. All right.
Yeah.
That would make sense. So emotional affairs.
Yes.
Okay. Because with the rise of social media, I've heard some stories of emotional affairs, people not ever touching each other, ever, but the emotional affairs has caused some stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you experienced any of that in your office? And tell me what you know about what an emotional affair, like, go ahead, share with me what's up.
Oh yeah. I definitely experienced that, that sometimes, I mean, I guess it's per person, but a lot of times people will even say emotional affairs are more hurtful than physical affairs.
Wow.
There's all different types. Infidelity is infidelity.
Right.
That there's, that's how I treat it. Infidelity is infidelity. If it's emotional, physical, no matter if you had a relationship for a year versus you're, chatting with somebody online. If you guys define that as infidelity, then that's infidelity. And the emotional aspect, people can view as more hurtful because their partner now is investing in somebody else. And they're saying, but you're not choosing me. If it's like a one-time physical, sexcapade or something, you can see that in different ways. You could see, oh, maybe it was just opportunity. Maybe they just made bad choices, where when they choose every day to be emotionally involved in someone, with someone, that can feel very hurtful. And I'm not saying one's better than the other. They're both very hurtful. If it's just like that one time cheating too, then it's, then people kind of look at, who am I to do that? Am I judging myself that I stepped out, and I needed this or something? So the emotional infidelity, it's very common. As you're right. The internet makes it so easy.
Right.
And I want to say females, but I guess males too. But girls I've seen more are just, lack of better words, thirsty, man. They just go after people, You take that opportunity, to accept a picture or to respond to something, or you feel just...
Or bringing a blast from the past where you had a connection with that human, and all of a sudden here you are on Facebook or whatever, or Instagram or whatever, and you're like, oh, and it starts off, or, like there's already problems, a disconnect in the relationship, and this person is actually listening to you, right? I mean, these are emotional affairs, people.
Exactly.
Like that's... a lot of people don't understand that either. Like what what? No, there's no such thing, but I'm like, no, like two people, like all of a sudden you're married, but you enjoy the company of a human being, even though you're not having sex with them or the opposite sex or whatever the situation. And now you're having this kind of romantic, let's go out to lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. You feel seen, you feel heard, you have someone paying attention to you. You have someone that's kind of giving you that honeymoon phase.
Yes, that's it.
That, oh, you look so good, or you're so smart, you're so strong, whatever it is. You're getting that honeymoon kind of butterfly feeling. And then what I see a lot is you justify. The person who's cheating is now justifying. Well, if my husband spoke to me this way, then I wouldn't be doing this.
Wow.
And then we start to look for that in our marriage. Like now I'm looking for negative things in my marriage. I'm looking for these negative cycles to make me feel more okay with the fact that I stepped out. It's that concept of cognitive dissonance, that when two things kind of conflict, we don't feel like maybe our values are saying, don't step out of your marriage. That's wrong. Cheating's bad, all of those things. And then, but we're still doing it. And it's like, okay, I need to come up with something so I don't feel that clash.
Right.
Excuse me, clash in my head. I'm using my arms as I do this clash in my head.
See you.
Yeah. And if we have that clash in our head, we have to come up with some kind of justification to make it feel okay.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at our marriage and saying, this is wrong. This is wrong. all these things are going bad in my marriage, so it makes it okay that I'm doing this. And as you said, maybe it's just I feel heard, or someone's talking to me, or I feel special.
Right.
I feel seen. I'm never going to take that step and meet this person in person, or be intimate with this person. And I'm not saying everybody does take that step.
Right.
But if you look at it more of that addict kind of perspective, you know, you can only sit in a barbershop so long before you get the haircut. You know?
Right. That makes sense. I mean, like, and so do you think that the emotional affair aspect comes first before the sexual part of it? You know?
I don't want to put it in one box.
Okay.
Because I've seen both.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
sometimes it's opportunity that comes first, and people act on it when they're feeling a certain way. Sometimes it is the emotional affair that comes first, and you're building this relationship. And like I said, maybe it stops there.
Okay.
Maybe it is just the emotional affair, and then your partner, you know, and there's so many different ways now. You know, you have Facebook with direct messages. You have you can like hide things.
Slide into my DM.
Exactly.
No, don't slide into my DM. I'm just kidding. Do not slide into anything.
But people do. People slide into all different types of DMs, and
I know.
especially the younger generation.
Yeah,
and I say this like I'm aging myself too, but like I've learned you can like hide everything.
Oh gosh.
You can call from like different phone numbers and say you're the person that you want. It's just crazy. Like the technology.
So let's go there, because I want to strengthen relationships.
Okay.
All right. I want to, you know, if you're listening to this and you're like, no, I had the affair, or my spouse did, or my significant other, and here I am with this pain and suffering. What would be the first thing you would say to a person that's dealing with this kind of turmoil?
Call me. No, I'm just kidding.
I will put all her info in the show notes. But really,
it's so hard. That pain, it's like I said, it feels like your whole world just got crumbled, and not just for the person that got cheated on,
right.
For the person that's cheating too. They go through a lot of pain also. You know, you asked me earlier about that holistic aspect to it. It's emotionally draining. It's physically draining. It's spiritually draining. You know, it's truly such an emotional roller coaster.
Right.
And that's something I want everyone to know too. Like, you're not crazy. Like, it's, if you choose to think about it and you are so mad at your partner one day, and then the next day you're like, I really just need a cuddle. Like, that's normal.
Right.
It's okay to be all over the place.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the first thing I would say is just, it's normal to feel all over the place, to feel like I don't know what I want to do next. And that's when a lot of people do start, you know, couples counseling, is just to find clarity.
Okay.
You don't have to be on board like, I am sure I want to make this work to start. It's more of, let me figure out what I want to do.
Okay. So go to counseling for that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I learn to forgive this person? Do I see trust as a possibility, maybe, you know, down the future? Do I have enough invested that I think maybe let me try this?
Right.
So that would be one of the first things, is understanding you're not alone in this. It is an emotional roller coaster. And then, you know, logistically, the next thing is setting boundaries. If you do decide to work on the relationship, boundaries are needed, and talked about boundaries, not just assumed boundaries. Talked about boundaries, meaning if this person reaches out, what do you want me to do?
Oh.
And there's so many layers to it, because it's, what if you work with this person?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
You know, people, it really affects everything
Right.
in your life. You know, does that mean you have to quit your job? Is that a boundary?
Or what do you tell the children?
Do you tell the
Oh,
children?
my word.
That's another question.
Wow.
Who do you tell?
Yeah.
You know,
There's children, yeah.
there's so much shame associated with infidelity too, that it silences us. And a lot of times we feel like, I can't tell anybody.
Right.
You know, in marriages, we have a lot of the same friends and we know all the same people. We don't want our family hating our spouse because they cheated, because what if I want to work it out and forgive this person? So now we feel just silent. Now we feel like I can't tell anybody.
Right.
I don't want anyone judging me if I stay. I don't want anyone judging them if we work it out.
Right.
And we just say, what do? I just have to figure this out. And I'm this emotional roller coaster and I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to.
Yeah.
And then we try to figure out boundaries. Yeah. What do we want to do? Who do we tell the children? Do we tell a friend?
Right.
And maybe the person that got stepped out on is angry and they start telling everybody.
Yeah.
And then what?
To work it through, or to be like, to crucify the person.
No, that happens.
Yeah, I know.
You do. You want to crucify. You're just angry. You just want to react. And then what happens is, what if you do want to work it out still? Now you're kind of, head between your legs, but that's okay too. I know there's other out there judgments, but it's based on you. It's your life, your family.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
It's you. To me, this is how I see it. It's you, the other person that you have chosen to be in a relationship with, and God Almighty. That's what it's in between, honestly, and to figure it out, because it's hard work.
Yeah.
Honestly, what I think is that if something like this happened in a relationship, you got to work your stuff out anyway, even if you choose not to stay. Right. Because if you ignore it and pretend, whatever, that stuff comes with you. I'm my husband's second wife.
Okay.
Right. And not saying that he brought a bunch of stuff and I'm not bad mouthing the first or anything like that, but I learned a lot of lessons from that. I'm a bonus mom. So it was just that whole situation. And we have a lot of blended families.
Okay.
And so to me, it's just like infidelity. I loved how you put it. It's like the boundaries that you chose in your relationship. And honestly, if you haven't worked out that would be premarital, or even if you've been married 10 years and you still don't have these boundaries or this, I want people to understand that marriage counseling is not just about when something's gone wrong. So just let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
What else is it for?
You're right. I mean, I do premarital counseling too. I'm a provider in Broward County. I have a huge premarital packet. I give people, and it's funny because that's one of the questions is, what do you define as cheating? And I want you to talk about it with your partner. So I think that's important to be talked about, the cheating aspect. I'm sorry, what was the second question for that?
Well, no, I forgot too. Okay. Well, it's all about prevention. So I'm trying to get people to understand what the importance of
coming to therapy.
She's got mommy brain. It's okay.
I focused on that, the cheating, the defining cheating, but the coming to therapy before there's an issue.
Yes,
exactly. That was it. So I think the Gottman again says that people wait an average of 6 years of being unhappy before they come to counseling.
Ouch.
A lot of the times.
Right.
And you're right. Nothing has to go wrong before you take that step. Maybe it's communication tools. Maybe when you guys fight, it just gets blown up, and everything, and you don't feel heard. And now you're sweeping everything under the rug.
Right.
And you can live with it, but you're not totally happy with it.
Right.
Or maybe it's the intimacy. Like we said, maybe we're just not being intimate. I see a lot of parents with young kids. That tends to be a big population that comes to therapy too, because young kids make it a lot more difficult.
Oh yeah, once you throw children in there, it's like what?
Yeah, the stress with that, and it's if you have more of this avoidant attachment, then it's like, am I finding? Am I leaving? Am I looking? Am I turning outwards?
Right.
Instead of turning to my partner for these kind of things. So 100%.
Or jealousy. Because people, and I know some spouses get jealous of the kids because they were the first with the wife, and then kids come along. What about me? And the woman doesn't, it's teaching them probably to balance that or say, because they might not be seeing it that way either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love the prevention part and that you have that. So you listening, people. So it doesn't mean that if you're thinking about getting married, do you work with singles that want to get married or learn new skills?
Yeah, I see couples and singles.
Okay.
And I see individuals in the relational aspect on all different levels too. So maybe it's, I want to look at my own communication skills, or, talking about the second marriage or something. I want to make sure I'm not bringing unhealthy things I did in that marriage and bringing it to this one. We all carry baggage from other relationships.
Right. We all fall short of the glory, people.
We do. I preach these things every day, and I'll sit there and yell at my husband sometimes, and I'm like, oh, crap,
Does he ever say, and you're a therapist?
Oh, no, he'll come back and be like, I feel.
And I'm picturing Eric doing that.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, geez.
It'd be like my husband doing that.
Yeah. So we all have baggage. We all have things that we need to work on. And I do see individuals going through the same thing. Or maybe that our partner doesn't want to come to therapy. Yeah. Maybe they don't believe in it. Maybe there's cultural aspects that they don't think it's okay to go to therapy. So the individual takes that initiative themselves and they say, I'm going to go in.
Good.
I'm going to try to break these cycles. Yeah. I'm going to learn about what's going on. Same thing with affairs. I'll get a lot of just one person. Okay. Maybe it's the person that stepped out. I need to figure out why I did this. I want to work on forgiving myself. Even if the spouse doesn't want them back, or if they do, my partner says, I need to go to therapy to figure this out. And then I'm learning these things and I need to change this in my relationship. Okay. So yes, individual therapy, a lot of the times too, I'll see one person in my practice, we'll see a couple, and then I'll say, I think you as an individual should also see a therapist in cohesion with couples therapy.
No, sometimes, I know people are like, we can't afford it. I'm like, you can't afford not to. Like, you want to become a better human. So even if you have to spend some money at that time and place of, couples therapy, individual therapy and everything, you want to work it out. It's going to pay off at the end, So is there any final words of encouragement you would like to share with the audience before we close out?
My final words of encouragement would kind of reflect some of the things we said. Don't feel alone in this. I want you to find confidence with your choices in your relationship. So if you are unsure what you want to do one way or the other, especially with infidelity, get some help with it. Ask others, talk to others. Don't let that shame silence you, because you can find confidence and feel okay about your decision. Right. You don't have to go in thinking, I hope I made the right choice. Either way, I want you to feel good on how this is the most informed decision kind of thing. I'm making a good decision. And you're right about even the price and everything with therapy. It's an investment.
It is.
Take the time, find someone that specializes in it. So you're investing in the right thing. And then it's your relationships, it's your family, it's your kids. That's something you want to invest in. Yeah. Don't put that off and say, hopefully I could figure this out. Right. So. Right. We're meant to be there for one another. Right. And to, and there's great resources out there. Maybe you can, I don't know if there's a book or a website that you can just forward to me, and I'll put it in the show notes of anything that you know of. Yeah. Even a book. I don't know. I have a couple books that I like. And then I think we have a page on my website that has it talks just about affairs and such too. All right. I'll put that in the show notes too. All right. So we'll touch base after this. Okay. So where can the audience find you? CoralSpringsCounselingCenter.com. Okay. I don't want to spell it. CoralSpringsCounselingCenter.com. Yeah, it'll be there. It'll be there, the show notes. And do you have social media? Yep. So Instagram and Facebook, it's C like Cassandra Thompson, THOMPSON, and then LMHC, licensed mental health counselor at Instagram, Facebook, all of that. All right, cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming by. Thanks for having me. I loved this. All right. Remember, dear listener, to trust in the Lord, guard your heart, and renew your mind. Bye. And now for the disclaimer to make sure you understand that you are responsible for you. The content provided on the Holistic Counselor podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical or mental condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast.
The views expressed on this podcast are my personal opinions and do not represent the views of any professional organizations with which I am affiliated. Call your doctor, 911, or 988 immediately if you have a medical emergency. The Holistic Counselor podcast does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the podcast. Reliance on any information provided by the Holistic Counselor podcast, guests appearing on the podcast at the invitation of the Holistic Counselor podcast, or other listeners to the podcast is solely at your own risk. Confidentiality notice. If you engage with the Holistic Counselor podcast by commenting or posting and are a client, please be aware that you may be revealing information that could compromise your confidentiality. Please remember that disclosing your identity or personal details can be linked to your clinical material. As a therapist, I am bound by confidentiality and will not respond to any disclosures of this type on this podcast. I am committed to upholding the ethics and confidentiality of the therapeutic relationship, which extends to all forms of communication in accordance with the laws and professional guidelines that govern mental health professionals. I want you to know that your privacy is of utmost importance, and you are responsible for protecting it when interacting on this platform or any other public forum. Thank you.